Tally ho! I'm wearing the same shirt because I'm on a video making rampage. So for this video I want to go into numerology. So if this is a hologram, which I perceive it to be, and I think if you look closely you can see it for yourself. But just like any computer program, again, like I mentioned in the last video, fractal nature, as above so below. So as in the computer we have ones and zeros, correct? Right? On and off. Does energy flow through this place or does it not? Right? That's how a computer functions, zeros and ones. Our simulated reality that we find ourselves within is vastly more complex, and thus it needs more variations of circuitry. So we have our number systems, and it's been said before, like mathematics is the foundation of our reality. Look at physics, right? Physics is the study of reality, and we use mathematics to figure it out. And so it's based off of numbers. Even in the simple natures of, like, you know, we can count things. There's numbers are inherent within the system. And so I see numerology as a way to read the code. Now, like I've mentioned before, I think a lot of things have been contaminated and confused over time, especially when it comes to older things such as astrology and numerology and old religious thought. As it goes through time, it goes through many minds, many languages, the translation of things get corrupted. Data becomes corrupted through time. So I'm not going to get too in depth of like, oh, what's the significance of the numbers, but each number has, just like 1 is go, 1 is energy flow through, 0 is blocked, no energy flow through. Each digit within our mathematical system, our numerical system, has its own energetic value, right? It's a measurement of energy or a frequency. Even frequencies are written in numbers. So I will go into the evolution of energy by way of numbers, right? 0, even within the symbology, right? It is void. It is the infinite potential yet to be manifest, right? It is nothing, but it has the potential to be everything, and it also amplifies, right? You have a 1, but you put a 0 next to it, and it's bigger, right? It's a bigger number now. It's in a whole other dimension of expression. So 0 is an amplifier, and it is also signifies untapped potential. Even within the circuitry of a computer, 0 is still potential. The energy is not flowing through, but it could. And only once it gets to the 1 does energy become manifest. Now we move into 1, right? Which is the initiation of energy, right? The Big Bang, the first burst of creation that initiates everything into being. So it has its own energetic equivalent of initiation, creation, beginnings, making things into being, especially when it's like 10, right? 10 and 0. So it's birthing something that was unmanifest to become manifest. 2, right? I had a better way of explaining it. I have it in my blog where it actually, like, the evolution of things. But 2, so with 1 becomes the initiation of particulates. Now there's particles. Now there's stuff within the void. 2 is the conglomeration, right? It's now that there's 2, things can start coming together and connecting and producing. So 2 tends to be with communication, connection, networking, these types of things. Moving on to 3, now the 1, male, 2, female, electric, magnetic. These 2 come together and now create another vessel, another being, right? The child, the childlike nature. And so 3 tends to symbolize innovative creativity, right? Because now it's on a whole nother level. The mother and the father came together to create a child, and the child are very playful, very spontaneous, very creative. And so 3 is tied to that. Also tied to the whole of Trinity, right? Magnetic, electric, magnetic, those come together, and the whole thing is the frequency of a wave that propels and ripples throughout without reality, kind of pushing time into motion. 4 being solidity. Okay, now that there's more bodily structures, right? Now it's not just particles. Now the particles are starting to come together and create objects, and now we have foundations with 4. Right? Now there's structure, now there's organization, there's things start to come together and organize themselves. Going into 5, now there's more freedom. Now that you have structure and being able to move, now with structure, with 5, you can actually start to move around and explore, right? The significance of 5 tends to be around exploration, trying new things. You have 5 fingers, 5 senses, 5 limbs, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. So it has to do with exploration, exploring your reality. At some point through that exploration, you decide to want to settle down, and now you become to 6, which tends to be family matters, right? We want to produce offspring, care for them, teach them, instruct them, guide them, right? So 6 tends to have a meaning of guidance, right? Parental guidance usually. So all the different variations that you want to of words that you want to use to explain parental guidance. Now, as the kids grow up and want to move out, just like the Hindu idea of you're young, you work, you get married, you have kids, and then after all that, you go into study, right? So now 7 is that study. Your kids are grown up, you've done a lot of life already, and now it's time for you to start learning about the deeper secrets, right? You start going to meditation, you start going into any kind of study, academic pursuits, testing of faith. That's what's tied to 7, right? The spiritual number, testing of faith. Learning of spirit through faith, and trying different things out in different forms of study. Now, as you learn these things, now comes the next number of 8, which is actually the application, right? The application of what you've learned to become a force of power in a way. Now, 8's usually tied to finance and money and things, because when you have a lot of knowledge of how the universe works, you tend to be able to make a lot more money, I guess, or be more successful in some way. It's not about being rich, it's just about having the knowledge to be able to sustain yourself, right? By the willful application of knowledge that you have to create a more stable and structured conduit for expression. And then after all that, you experience that, now you come to 9. Okay, you did all that power for yourself, now it's time to share that with other people. 9's top tier, it's the end of the line, it's already experienced everything down below it, now it's time for it to share. So it's more of the teacher, the compassionate, the humanitarian, taking all this knowledge and wanting to help humanity as a whole, bringing it all out. Now this is a very simple rundown in a very quick video, because there's polarity, right? There's negative and positive expressions of each digit. It becomes a little bit more complex, but these are like the digits, the code within the holographic reality we find ourselves in, and there's ways to read it. That's geometria or numerology and these types of things, and even astrology, but that's a whole nother video about electromagnetic fields and how they influence each other. I'll do that one later. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. The code of the hologram, we're not as powerless as we may think. There's different forms of knowledge to help give us a more of a foundational understanding. So if you like that, thank you so much for your support, and until next time, bye.